So today's penultimate Noirvember film was 1952's Deadline USA. It's a newspaper noir written and directed by Richard Brooks, who actually started his professional career as a journalist. So it's very accurate, and it's inspired by two different writers or two different newspapers: the New York Sun, which closed in 1950, as well as the New York World, which was the newspaper run by Joseph Pulitzer, who, after his death, his sons sold the paper off. Um, in this film, Humphrey Bogart plays Ed Hutchinson, a managing editor of the newspaper The Day. He has discovered that the heirs of the owner of the paper, along with the owner's widow, have decided to sell the paper. Eventually, the widow, played by Ethel Barrymore, realizes that this is not what her husband would have wanted, and this is not the legacy this paper deserves. And so she tries to halt the sale. All the while, the paper is basically crusading one last time to put behind a racketeer who has murdered a woman. At first, these two things seem separate, and then they realize that they are indeed connected. And the way they're able to break this case, and this is a spoiler, and I apologize, but it'll go to the point of why I'm saying it, is the mother of the murdered woman brings the woman's diaries to the newspaper, and the Bogart character, this is at the end of the film, he goes, "Why would you bring this to us and not the police?" And she's like, "Why?" She's an immigrant, and she goes, "Why would I trust the police? They've never been there for me, but the newspaper was here when I came to America, and the newspaper is what taught me English, and the newspaper is what taught me about America." And it's definitely a look at an old sort of idea of what journalism should be. And it makes this film very timely, as we are now looking at what does journalism mean in 2017 and what does journalism mean in this era that we're now living in. And this whole film was during the U.S.A. Era, and was about the freedom of press and the freedom of speech and the freedom of ideas. And it seems to me that we are dangerously heading towards a repetition of where we were 80 years ago, 40 years ago, not 40 years, what am I, math, 70 years ago, whatever, the 50s, 40s, 50s, I'm sorry, my nose always itches. So this is just a great film. It's a great newspaper film. It's a great noir. It's a great crime film. It's one of Humphrey Bogart's best performances. It's a lived-in, felt character. You know, it's got Bogartisms, but it really feels like a fully fleshed out character in a way that sometimes Bogart doesn't quite get over his own star persona to do, and in this case he really does. My only complaint is that his ex-wife is played by Kim Hunter, and she was 30 when she made this film, and they were supposed to have been married, divorced for 2 years, but married for 8 years, which means she would have been 20 when they got married, and that just seems preposterous. But then, you know, Bogart was like 50 when he married Lauren Bacall, and she was 20, so I guess maybe not that strange. But Kim Hunter is very good in this film, as is Audrey Christie as the woman reporter at the newspaper. She is tough and amazing and wonderful. There's a great scene with Jim Backus that's quite good as well. So this is just a really solid film noir. You can get it on DVD. The DVD has commentary by Eddie Muller, so that's always good. And this is just a very solid, great newspaper noir, and I highly recommend it. This is Deadline USA from 1952, written and directed by Richard Brooks.